All right, let's go to that right now. NTSB holding a news conference.
Pole and crashed into a tree. So the information we're providing today is factual information. We have done no analysis of this information. We'll be gathering facts for some time before we start with the analysis. And so we have drawn no conclusions from it, and I will not be able to give any conclusions tonight. So here's what we've gathered since yesterday's update. We looked at the history of Talley Road. There have been no fatal crashes on Talley Road in the vicinity of the crash site within the past 3 years. There have been 9 crashes that involved injuries in that same time frame, and 43 crashes that involved only property damage. In the course of looking at the history of Talley Road, we just ascertained that Talley Road was not on the designated route for that school bus. There are 3 video cameras mounted on the bus, one in the front facing back through the interior, one in the rear facing forward through the interior, and another one over the driver facing out the door. The videos have been downloaded. We were having trouble downloading the videos because of the damage to the cameras, and because of the difficulty, we have not completed the download, and we're bringing an expert, one of our recorders experts in from Washington, who will be coming later this week to help, because we needed expertise in getting information from the damaged recorders. The mechanical inspection of the bus is underway. We're just about finished with that. We're looking at the brakes, we're looking at the steering, we're looking at the mechanical condition of the bus to see to what extent was that part of the cause of this accident. The engine control module has been removed from the bus and will also be analyzed by our recorder specialist, who's coming later this week. That's also presenting some challenges, some download challenges, but ideally if we can get the information from that, we will be able to determine the speed of the bus. We will be able to determine brake application and other facts that we are looking to determine. The bus was owned and operated by Durham School Services of Downers Grove, Illinois. They are a very large company with something like 13,000 buses and thousands of drivers, one of the largest school bus providers in the United States. We've met with their representatives and their parent company, National Express, and they have provided us with all of the requested documentation and have been very cooperative throughout the course of this investigation. They are a party to the investigation. According to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's Motor Carrier Management Information System, Durham School Services was operating on a conditional safety rating since 2007, which means the FMCSA found some problems regarding that company, but the problems were resolved to the point that it was upgraded to a satisfactory rating in August of 2015. We'll be exploring what were the deficiencies and what was done about those deficiencies. So we're still in the process of reviewing their operational oversight and crash history. We have conducted interviews with some parents. We will be doing more interviews. We have asked for witnesses who have any information that can be helpful to us to contact us or the Chattanooga Police so that we can use that information, because the more information we get about people who happen to catch the bus move on their cell phone video, or people who heard from their kids about the driver, or any information that would be helpful to us, please let us know, or the Chattanooga Police Department. And again, I would like to emphasize how good the cooperation has been between us and the Chattanooga Police Department. We could not do what we're doing without their help. As you know, they are doing a parallel investigation to determine whether criminal charges are warranted and pursuing that. Our investigation, the purpose of our investigation is to determine what went wrong and then make recommendations to try to prevent it from happening again. We've also begun interviewing first responders, because in addition to wanting to try to prevent the accident in the first place, we looked at how, once the accident occurred, how the response was to try to mitigate the fatalities and injuries from the accident. We've also begun the interior inspection of the school bus, because we're looking extensively at occupant protection issues regarding questions like belts and to what extent would belts have made a difference. We've learned from the Chattanooga Police Department that the post-crash toxicology testing of the driver was negative for both alcohol and commonly tested drugs. You heard that in the police report this afternoon. We will be sending the samples also to our Oklahoma facility to look at a much longer list of drugs, licit and illicit drugs. Our family assistance staff has continued their outreach efforts to families and continued to collaborate with the local family assistance response community. The investigator in charge, Robert Aceta, who is leading the NTSB investigation team, will continue to direct the investigation. Our investigators will remain on scene for several more days to gather all the information that they can locally and to talk to witnesses. After that, the investigators will continue the investigation off-site to complete the fact-finding, and then after the fact-finding is the analytical phase, During the fact-finding, we work with all of the parties to get all the technical information from them that we can. That's a very collaborative effort. After the fact-finding is finished, then the collaboration stops and we go to the analysis phase, and we do the analysis ourselves. The purpose of that is so that the analysis will be impartial and unbiased. We remain very interested in what witnesses to the crash may have to report, as I mentioned, so anyone who has any information that would be helpful to us in this investigation, please let us or the Chattanooga Police Department know. So that's my update for today. We don't have any plans for a subsequent media briefing, so this will be the last scheduled media briefing unless we get a different decision from our public affairs person based on the general situation, but it appears now that this will be our last media briefing, our last regularly scheduled media briefing. We will still be available for media questions at any time through Chris O'Neill. So at that point, I think I'm ready to take questions for either me or for the investigator in charge, Robert Aceta. Yes, please.
You said you've been speaking with parents. There have been some reports that parents have complained about the bus driver driving unsafely in the past. Do you have anything to say about that? Have the parents told you anything about that?
That's one of the things we're interviewing the parents about, is because we have heard those reports as well, so we're checking into that through these interviews. We're not going to release interview results piecemeal. We're going to complete our interview process before we characterize what we have found from the interviews. We never release interviews verbatim. We will release a characterization of it, and we will wait to do that until we get the full picture. Yes, please.
News conference with the chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, Sarah Sidery, is there. She'll bring us more from that, and if anything else is revealed during the news conference during those questions.
And in case you tuned in a little late, a couple of items that came out of interest. Many of you have asked about video cameras or recording devices on the bus. He tells us that those devices were heavily damaged, and it's hard for them to get the video or any of the images from those cameras. They're still working on that. And also that they have not yet determined for sure whether or not seat belts would have been helpful to save some lives or prevent some injuries in this crash. So again, we'll have more from Sarah Sidery on NTSB Chairman Christopher Hart's news conference a little bit later on.